So for investors looking at what's happening, Eugene, how much of an oh no moment is this? Because, the thing I've noticed and also remember is, this Pentagon blacklist, the CMC, names get added and dropped pretty regularly.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think right now, the very near-term impact is fairly negligible from an earnings perspective for both Tencent and CATL. The issue really is not specifically about the CMC list. When we really look closer at what was included in that list, the purpose of this list really is for the Department of Defense to determine which companies are Chinese military companies and which companies cannot be suppliers to the Defense Department in the U.S. So my best guess here is Tencent and CATL are not major suppliers to the U.S. military, hence the economic risk for them in the near term is fairly minimal. But I do think that oh no moment really comes if this expands wider, and I think that's the risk that investors are trying to weigh right now, and that's probably what's putting some pressure on the shares.
Yeah, what do you think is the likelihood or possibility that incoming President Trump, among the first things he does, is going to ratchet things higher?
It's better than 50% is the way I would think about it. It's likely here. I think specifically for this situation with the CMC list, it's worth understanding a bit more about why this list came into place. And it actually was under the first term of President Trump where the CMC list was kind of officially put together. But the actual economic sanctions currently are put under by the Department of the Treasury. And that actually happened under President Biden in 2021. So what's interesting here is that the OFAC list, which is really for more sanctions, meaning it's for U.S. investors' inability or ability to invest into certain Chinese companies, that list, where Tencent and CATL are not on, is not currently under the Department of Defense jurisdiction. However, it's not impossible that President Trump could shift that again.
Yeah, so because I think we need to make this point. Net right now, the risk right now is purely just reputational damage, nothing that could materially impact their business or their earnings, right? Because being on this list, there are no specific monetary or economic penalties involved, right?
That's correct. The specific CMC list is not actually a legal list, meaning there's not some sort of legal consequence for being put on the list. The key thing that's actually not even implemented yet, this won't be until 2026, is that companies on this list cannot have contracts with the U.S. military. So in the near term, there's essentially zero economic impact. Obviously, there's some economic impact in a year or so where these companies cannot supply the U.S. military. But again, I highly doubt there's major revenues for these companies to the U.S. military at this point.